Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael with Houston Grass, and this is the Houston Grass Podcast. Spring is starting to rear its head around here a little bit. There's not much green on the grass just yet. I know around here everybody kind of thinks of March 1st as the beginning of spring. People are definitely out working in their yards and they're calling us with grass questions and orders. And the number one question that we're being asked right now multiple times a day is the grass green yet? And the answer is no. If I had to put a percentage on it right now, I'd say it's getting better every week, but we just had another hard frost at the farm about a week and a half ago, and that knocks out the color again. Ground temperature is always what dictates color, and until that ground temperature gets up and stays up, it doesn't really get those new shoots of green grass coming up amongst the dead stuff. So I do think we're well on our way. If you find green grass, there are retailers that they'll buy the grass that's been painted. I've seen it myself. I thought that was an urban legend, but there are really people that do that. So it's just not there yet. Is now a good time to plant grass? Absolutely. For the next 3 months is prime time to plant grass. If you start earlier, you beat the rush, the price increases, and the waiting lists for installation. But the biggest advantage you have for the next 3 months is that most vegetation in South Texas does most of its growing in the springtime. We'll have the moderate temperatures help immensely. If we get some rainfall, even more so. But those moderate temperatures make a lot of difference, and it helps with that water bill a whole lot. The earlier you do this in the spring, you can get grass established with just a fraction of the water as you would if you did this in July, where you really just have to pour the water on for days and days and days. So now is an excellent time to plant grass. Another question that's being asked a lot is people are seeing the weeds, the clovers, the broadleaf weeds in their yard, and they're wanting, how do I get rid of them? We do sell the nitrophos fertilizers, the Imperial, the red bag that's just straight fertilizer. We carry the fertilizer, the purple bag that's got atrazine for a post-emergent weed killer herbicide, and we sell the turquoise or teal kind of color bag that's got the trimec in it. They all have their different purposes. Atrazine is what is in most of the Scott's products that people are used to. It is the one you have to be careful with. They do say not to use that one year after year, especially under trees and around flower beds, because atrazine can pollute groundwater, so you do want to be careful with it. You do not want to get it anywhere near your flower beds. So the regular, if you can get away with just doing the regular fertilizer, the Imperial 15510, that is a good one. It gives the grass its boost. And the thing is, most of them are going to disappear. If you can just mow them for 6 weeks or so, by the time we get to mid-spring, mid to late April, the heat is going to kill most of those weeds. The weed and feed is not a miracle cure. They probably kill 50 to 60% of the weeds that are out there in your yard right now. People call us, well, I use the weed and feed and I still have weeds. What do I do? Well, now you're talking about you don't want to do it again. You certainly don't want to do it again. And you could move to post-emergent herbicides. We don't sell anything like that because we have seen it is such a dangerous proposition for homeowners to put them out, because it is so hard to get the right application. First, you have to have a chemical applicator's license to even buy them, to put them out. The ones you can buy off the shelf, some of them are effective, but if you put out a little bit too much, you can kill everything that it touches in your yard. Then you're calling us about an entire yard replacement. So got to be real careful with that. Be careful when you're using herbicides. We tell people, really, if you're going to get into those, that you probably should hire a professional. So be mindful of that. The trimec is the fertilizer that you would use on the Bermuda grasses and the zoysia grasses. You would not want to use the atrazine weed and feed on those two types of grasses because they're not made for it. I don't know that it would kill it, but I wouldn't want to do a science experiment in my front yard. So it would not be good for it for sure. So you've got to use the teal bag or the trimec with the zoysias and the Bermuda grasses. So keep that in mind. We are probably past our last frost. It would be a good time to go ahead and get those yards scalped. That will promote that sunlight getting down to that dirt and promote that St. Augustine or Bermuda or whatever you have starting to grow. Drop your mower setting down a notch or two and mow the grass. If you don't have a bagger, you'd want to rake up and get all that dead material out of there. If you do that and then hit it with some fertilizer and then some water, that's a great combination to do right now for sure. Like I said, be careful with the scalping. You don't want to do this multiple times a year, but in order to get all that dead material out of there, now is a good time to do that. And then I said follow up with water. It was such a wet January, cold, and I have to say for most of February, I bet we're about 3 weeks in our part of the world here, just south of Houston. We're about 3 weeks without much as measurable rain goes. It's been less than a half inch, so it is probably time to turn those irrigation systems back on. I know I'm going to turn mine back on this weekend and check it all out, close all my valves that I had to keep it from freezing, and test everything, check all the sprinkler heads, make sure they're working and none are broken and they're all aimed where they're supposed to be. So now is the time to start watering. The rule of thumb is when the grass is growing and green, an inch of water a week. You should do that in 2 to 3 waterings a week, which is 15 to 25 minutes per zone, depending on what kind of sprinkler heads that we're talking about. I will say that, like right now, I'm a twice a week guy at my office and at the house. I would probably only think about once a week right now. We are starting to dry out, and I don't want to get behind on that. So you can overwater this time of year when you're in these transition temperature times. You can invite in the brown patch, just like you see it really rears its head in the fall. It will show up in the springtime as we transition into the warmer days as well. So you don't want to overwater because that's just fuel for it. And so if you do see some, it is not unheard of. The Heritage G that we have here is a fantastic product. It's a granular you put out just like fertilizer, and it will stop the spread of that brown patch. It doesn't reverse it, but this time of year it will grow out of it really fast and you'll get rid of those ugly scars. So if you see some of that, be mindful of it and maybe think about treating that. This time of year it's not as big a deal as in the fall when time seems to drag on longer. If you don't do something about it early on, you're looking at those scars throughout your yard all winter long. So not as big a deal this time of year, but be mindful of it. Don't go crazy with the water, but I do believe that it's time to turn the water back on. We're slated for a little bit of rain next week. If we get a half inch of rain, then you can turn it off again. This time of year is probably ample for flower beds and probably in your yard and everything, but we are not getting that right now, so keep an eye to the sky. I briefly mentioned earlier the benefits of laying grass in the springtime. Now, and it's mainly has to do with everything grows better. It just everything, grass included, gets a better head start when you plant it this time of year. It's starting to warm up, but we're not in those brutal temperatures yet. Planting palmetto in particular this time of year is great because we try to talk people out of planting palmetto in the summertime. I would say that the absolute best time to plant palmetto is in the spring, and the second best time it would probably be in the fall when we've got those moderate temperatures. If you plant it in the summer, there's a fungus called gray leaf spot that palmetto has a tough time with. I don't know if it's because of the grass itself or the fact that where people plant it. Palmetto gets planted in those cooler areas up underneath the trees that stay damper longer, and it just means the grass is more susceptible to that gray leaf spot in the summer. Gray leaf spot requires high temperatures, less air movement, and some moisture, high humidity, which we've got plenty of here in the Houston area. So now is a great time to go ahead and plant and get established that palmetto. They're just like all the grasses, but palmetto in particular, because you do have to battle that brown patch if you wait till the summer. That's it for tips I can think of off the top of my head. The end of this week is March 1st, and if I always mention that if we're going to have price increases, that's when we normally do them. The price of pallets generally are going to go up $5. I think the zoysias are going to go up a little bit as well. Always consult our price list on our website. We keep that up to date, and if it changes, we make it more than obvious. We put the signs out front and everything. This year price increases are coming from the farm. The labor prices have gone up a little bit for the program that they use. That's where the price increase comes in, and we've been telling people this for weeks. $5 is a relatively small increase these days on the pallets of grass and whatnot. So anyways, if you got any questions, please give us a call. No, the grass is not green now. It is dormant, not dead, and it will take off just fine in a couple of weeks when we get some of those warm days and warm that ground up a little bit. So if you got projects, now's the time to call us. So thanks for listening.